Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Discover webinar today on Year-End Success with CDM Plus. My name is Alex Clay, and I'm the CEO here at Saran Systems. Today, we've got a great team that will be walking us through all of the to-do items and getting ready to make sure that year-end is a highly successful time. It seems like just yesterday it was January, and here we are already getting ready for the holidays and heading into January of 2026. So Sherry Snedden, our support manager, is going to be walking us through our webinar content today. She'll have lots of great tips and resources, not just some things you can do to prepare now, but also for how to reach out to our team. We're here to help you as we move through what is often a busy time of the year with some tasks that we don't do all that frequently. So we want to make sure that everybody is highly successful. We've got a couple more Saran staff joining me. Jennifer Nelson, our support engineer, will be hanging out, taking questions in the chat as we go along. I also have Chris Widener with us, our marketing specialist, and then Eli Turner and our sales team will be joining us in a little bit. We are closing up towards the end of our Discover What's Possible webinar series. We've been doing these most months of the year, and they are all available on our website to view in the recording form at this point. So if you're curious about anything from tips and tricks to be more effective with CDM Plus or promoting online giving to your congregation or community, go check out the webpage there at cdmplus.com/discover2025 and take a look at those videos and hopefully get some great information. These are designed to sort of get the brain juices going, get you asking good questions, and reach out to us, and we'll be happy to take a deeper dive on any of that material. We do have one more webinar this year. We are actually partnering up with the third-party software that we use for tax form preparation, Atrix. During this webinar, our team, the Atrix team, will be showing you how to do your year-end filing online. So it'll certainly save you a trip to the post office, a little more guaranteed delivery. Nothing will get lost in the mail. It's a great way to get things done on your schedule and then wait to file them towards the end of the month just in case there's a last-minute issue. Lots of great tips and tricks there. You can sign up at that same page, cdmplus.com/discover2025. or just watch your inbox as we move towards that date in December. We'll be sending out plenty of communication about that webinar. While you're looking at your calendar, make sure you save the date September of next year for our 26th annual users conference. We had a great conference in Lexington, Kentucky in September. Seems like just yesterday, but it's about a month and a half ago. And we're already looking forward to our next conference. This will be in Charleston, West Virginia, right downtown at the Embassy Suites. Stay tuned for more information, but that's running Tuesday, September 22nd to Thursday, September 24th next year. And with that, I'll go ahead and let Sherry jump on here.
All right. So everybody loves year end, right? We all tell ourselves that. And so hopefully I can give you some suggestions that will help make this January a little bit less stressful than others. So the first thing we want to talk about is we have a whole section of our website that's there to help you. We call it January Survival Guide, and it is truly that. Anything that you, we hope anything that you might need is in that section. So how you're going to get there, and many of you probably know this, but how you're going to get there is you'll go to help.saran.com, and then you'll see you get two options. You're going to choose the CDM Plus full CDM option unless you're an Essentials user, but I feel like most folks are probably. And then once we click here, you can see right here under featured items, we have our January Survival Guide. It gives you everything from a checklist, which we're going to look at a little more in depth, but you also have W-2s, your W-2, W-3, how to update giving funds, archiving 1099s, just everything that you might need for end of year 2025 and to begin 2026. Now, if we just for a second, if we click on our year-end checklist, you can see that we give you some suggestions here. All right, so here's some suggestions that we think you should do in December and January. Now, do you have to do these? Of course not. It's really up to you and your workflow, but we find that it will definitely make your transition into 2026 a smoother one. So you can look at these, and we're going to talk about a couple of these. And of course, we can't talk about all of them today, but we're going to talk about a couple of them. And then as you move into January, here's some more specific things where it gets a little more time sensitive, of course. And then even a couple things in February, January, February. We really recommend that you utilize the what we call the JSG, or the January Survival Guide, and any feedback that you can offer us on this is most helpful, because if we can make it better, we definitely want to do that. So it's a tool there for you to use. So we're going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to start talking about a few things that we can do in CDM to get ready, start preparing, start reviewing the data that we have. So, one of the things, and these are in no particular order, but one of the things that we recommend that you start looking at is your payroll. So, of course, the obvious, right, which is go into your employee setup, make sure that they're set up correctly. Sometimes where we see that there is an issue, it can be if you employ clergy, right? So for your pastors and your they many times maybe something in their record didn't get set up just as you would have liked it. And so we have to do some adjustments. And so it's good to know that ahead of time, because then you can allow for that in your scheduling. Now, one of the things that I recommend that you do is you go to reports, go to payroll reports, and then we want to go to payroll employee detail report. Actually, we may use the summary. Let's use our summary. And what we want to do is just take a look at the records for a particular your group of employee. Now, in this case, I've chosen 24. That's only because I need to capture a little more data. But you would choose for your date range January 1 of 25 through 12/31 of 25. Now, if I go ahead and run this report, so, and the reason my screens, just so you know, it's not because there's anything wrong. My screen is, I've made it pretty big so everybody can see. So many times the screen goes off and I have to pull it around. But this way, this report will show you by employee, by pay period. So you can take a look at this and see, does this make sense? Now, will you remember every possible thing? No, but you definitely will probably notice things that are out of place. Like all of a sudden, if this pay period said, 800 hours rather than 80, you might go, oh, wait, no, why would we have paid them 800 hours? So it's a way for you to just do this quick review of the pay periods. Now, you can also run that report by clicking on report. You can run it by composite. So if we do the same thing, now we see just the employees and we see their totals. So if you have a general idea, for instance, you see how we have some allowances here. So if you have clergy and they have housing allowance and you all of a sudden don't see that here, well, wait a minute, that's a problem. So you want to take a look at that and go ahead and reach out to support if necessary. Again, all of this is in an effort to make your January less stressful, because as we all know, January, we get a large call volume and we do our best to reply as timely as possible. But sometimes there can be a longer delay because we have more tickets. And so anything we can do to help you get in front of that, we definitely want to do that. So this is just one way to review your payroll. So two steps, right? Review the employee setup, make sure that along the way you've been taking out taxes to the correct state, or that you're taking out state taxes. I've seen that happen where folks forget to choose that. Just things that could make a difference. Make sure that your clergy are set up. If you have allowances or things like that, right? Just to make sure that that's there. Then the second part of that would be to review a pay period report. In my case, I used payroll employee summary so that we could look at it as a whole, or I can also look at it by detail. That will help you because, as many of you know, if you've had to experience creating mock payrolls or adjustments so that we can get an employee's pay just right, that can be a little bit frustrating, and it can cause you a little heartburn. So we like to see if we can get those identified early and eliminate that for you. So the next thing we want to talk about is 1099s. So you can go ahead and begin looking at your 1099 records, all of your vendors, to see, do I have them all set up correctly? Do I have them marked correctly? So for instance, if I go to reports, I go to ledger, I go to activity, and then ledger by vendor. So if I pull up my ledger by vendor report, if you see you have your date range here. Of course, you want to use transaction date. We're going to say all, and then if we go to report, then we can see that we can choose right here 1099 items only, or we can deselect that, and then that will show us all vendors that we paid in the year of 25. Now, why that's important is because you don't want to simply do this report, which is just 1099 items only, because what if maybe there was an oversight and you didn't mark somebody that needed a 1099? So I recommend that you run this report wide open, deselect that, and then we run that option. So you see your reports. So we've got this report here, and this is everybody. This is everybody I've paid for the sake of this training. And so now I want to go back and I'm going to look at this same report, but I'm going to do it with just 1099 items. And then I'm going to look at that one. Okay, so now it's smaller, right? Of course, that's what we would expect it to be. So then what you would want to do is be able to compare these, whether you're able to manipulate your windows like I just did, or whether you just print it. Some people like hard copy and they like to, just look at them and touch that paper. That's okay too. But I can see, wait a minute, I've got Ronnie Fields over here on the left, which is my full list, but I only have one item listed on the right for him as a 1099. Now, that might be exactly correct. It absolutely could be, but it might not be as well. So I want to go look at that. So I want to go in and say, okay, let's take a look at Ronnie Fields. So if we go into program, payables, vendor records, and then I go and I'm going to pull up Ronnie. All right, so we've got Ronnie Fields here. I'm going to click on payments, and I can see here's my items for 25. All right, you see this little asterisk right here. I hope it's clear where I'm circling here, but there's an asterisk beside of the account number over on the right. That tells us that that item is going to be on a 1099. That has been processed for 1099. But if you needed to, let's go ahead and say if you said, no, wait, Ronnie's not supposed to have, he's not 1099. So what you would do to remove him, you simply click change on the left, and then you would just double click this item, and you see how the asterisk now is gone. That means that when you print a 1099 or we rerun this report, he's not going to show up on our 1099 report. So if I close this and I go back to our ledger by vendor and I run it by 1099 only and go back, see, he's gone because we removed him. And you would do the reverse of that if you needed to add him to the 1099 list. So this is how you can preview that list. And now some of you may only have one or two, and that's not a lot. That won't take you much time. but others could have quite a few 1099s and it could be quite the project. So getting started on that early will allow you to get through that report. And then when it's time to do your 1099s in January, you will be ready right out of the gate. So, come January 1, 2, whenever you're back to work, you'll be ready. Okay. Now, the next thing that we do in January, which everybody's favorite, is contribution statements, right? I bet everybody is smiling because you're thinking, no, it's not. But we still have to prepare for them and get them out. And so, one of the things that we have to do is we have to make sure we don't have any duplicates. So what you're going to do is you can identify duplicates, by going to your giving records, which is your giving unit records, which is what I would do, right? Is I'm going to go here to giving unit records. And I'm just going to say all. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the last name, and I'm going to sort it by last name so that I can see if I have any. Now, I only have 75 records in here. If you have 1,000 records, then it's going to take you a minute to identify those if you have duplicates. But I'm going to just scroll down and look for duplicates. See, I can see I have some Disneys here, but they have different first names. So that's not a duplicate, of course. So I'm just going to keep going down. I've got some hat makers, but no duplicates over here. So, and that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to identify duplicates. All right. Well, down here, I can say, oh, I'm in here twice because, preparing for today, I put myself in there 2 or 3 times. And so I need to merge those records. Now, many of you have probably already merged, but here's one of the things you want to remember about merging. That is, always merge giving units first. So you'll merge your giving unit first, then you'll merge individual records. And then once you've merged them, any extra address records that aren't linked to any other records, then you'll be able to just delete those. But again, always start with your giving unit first. So now over here, there's no obvious merge or anything. But if I click on this and shift, now if I had 3 or 4, and sometimes that happens where you'll have multiples, not just 2. If you click on the first one, shift click on the last one, it'll select them all in between. So you can see now, because I selected 2 or more, over on the left, we now have a merge option. So if I click merge, it's going to come up and it'll say, okay, which one do you want to keep? Now that's up to you, right? Because sometimes people like to keep the oldest one because that's where, the information is, but it's really up to you. In this case, I'm going to keep the oldest one. So I'm just going to drop that over there. And then I'm going to say next, next, merge. And yes, I want to proceed. And then I'm going to get that it was successful. All right. So now if we scroll down, we can see there's only one of me now, which that's good because there should not be more than one of me. That's a good thing. So there's only one of me. Now let's go to individual records because I want to make sure that I don't have any individual records that are duplicated. And chances are I do. If I have more than one giving unit, most of the time you'll have more than one individual record. So I'm going to go to Program, Membership, Individual Records. And we're going to look, and so we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to look me up. I'm just choosing to look it up by last name contains, and then it's my last name. And then we can see, oh, I do have 2, right? Now, one of the things you have to be conscious about here is, see this one, if you look in the lower right, there, I don't have online credentials. So on this particular account, I do not have an Engage account. So that's okay. But if I go to this one, I do have an Engage account. So if I had 2, so I want to give you this caveat. So if I'd had an Engage account on both of these individual records, I would have had to clear one of them. So you could choose which one you want to keep, but I would have had to clear one of them. And I would do that simply by hitting clear in the lower right. If by chance I want to keep this record, the one that says the first one here at the top, if that had been the record I wanted to keep and that's not where my credentials are, I can hit transfer down here in the lower right, and I can transfer these credentials to this record. So I maintain that account with the new after I merge. But in this case, just for time, I'm going to just get rid of the one that doesn't have the account. Now, and you're going to see why I do this in just a second. I'm going to say change, and I'm going to the record I'm not going to keep, and I'm just going to add an X. And you're going to see why in just 1 second. So now I'm going to grab these two just like before. I've selected this one, shift click this one. Now I have merge on the left. I'm going to click merge. Now, you see how if I had not added that X, I wouldn't know which one I was keeping. So I know that I'm keeping the one without the X. All right, and I'm going to say next and merge and yes. All right, and now I'm merged, and you can see there's only one individual record. Okay. And then we're going to go one more step back just to show this while we're in here. We're going to go to address records, and let's just see. I'm going to search by last name contains and find. All right, just like we expected, we actually have two. So we can see that this first option over on the left where it says go, you can see that I have an individual record and a giving unit record selected or tied to this first address record, which means I won't be able to delete that. So if I click this one, you see how on the left, it's been stripped away. Because of my merging, it now isn't tied to a giving unit record or an individual record. So I can delete this one. So I would just simply delete this. And then it's going to, now, of course, just like anywhere that you delete, you could restore. So if you get here and you go, oh, wait, no, this is the wrong one, you can just hit restore. But in this case, we know I don't need it. Close and yes. And now I have one. Now that took a lot longer than it's going to take you because I was explaining it, but that's the process. Giving unit, individual unit, address record, okay? Now, so that's how we're going to merge, and that's how you're going to make sure that when you print your contribution statements, you'll have one. If you don't do this piece of it, and let's say somebody has 4 contribution records, because I know you all know this, sometimes people create more than one Engage account. And so if you don't merge those together, then that person would have 4 contribution statements. And so this way it allows you to minimize that and get that down to 1. Okay. Okay. I just want to briefly mention that with pledge records, if you use our pledging system, the pledge feature, you want to make sure that, and you do it by year. Many folks will say, 2025 pledge, 2026 pledge. And if you do that, you will want to create that New Year's record giving fund. And of course, we're going to do that under contributions and giving funds. And you would just create that in here, right? And you can see we have a couple this one in our testing, we've done it by year, different things. And people call it different things, but they want it by year, which is fine. So you would add this, but then the second step of that is any recurring gifts that extend into 2026. You'll want to be sure that you go out and make that change so that that giving unit is actually the correct fund. Now, if you only have two or three or four or five, if you don't have a large amount, you can do that, of course, on your own. However, should you have a lot, reach out to support, and maybe there's some options that we can help you with that. But again, if you just have a few, you would just go in and change them manually, and that's good. Now, I'm just gonna mention archive for just a second. We're not gonna really show it, but this is a good time to start thinking about archiving. So, what do you want to archive, right? What should I archive? What should our process be in our administrative office, and how should we do that? We recommend don't archive accounting, meaning ledger entries, things like that. I'm not saying there's never a time we might recommend that, but as a general rule, we prefer that your accounting not be archived, but membership records, contributions, things like that, absolutely, if that works for your workflow. Sometimes people have thousands and thousands of records, and so therefore archiving is definitely necessary. Sometimes folks don't have as many, they don't have thousands of records, but it helps to keep a good, clean database. But this is a time to think about that. But now you can archive anytime. January is not the magic month like it is for these other things, but it's a good time to start just thinking about the process, and do you want to archive? Is that part of the process for your office? All right. So that's kind of the what I have for you as it relates to some things to get prepared, get ready. So just to recap, right? We're going to review our payroll. We're going to look at our employee setup. We're going to also review the earnings. We're going to make sure that we don't see anything that is a little bit hinky. We want to, that way we can get it resolved quickly. We want to begin reviewing our 1099 report. We want to make sure that if they're supposed to be, I will add this caveat about 1099. Let's say that you set somebody up, you look at them and they're not set up as 1099, and you say, oh goodness, they should be set up as 1099. You set them up today. You will need to go in and change those existing payments and make them so that they, toggle them so that you see that asterisk and it's going towards the 1099. Okay. So start doing that. Merging any duplicates that you have, going through your records, making sure that all of your duplicates are merged and you're ready for those contribution statements. Also, your pledge records. If you use pledging, then make sure that you've set up your new pledge fund and that you've began to switch. Don't switch it until your December recurring bills fires off, though, right? So don't get too far ahead and switch that today, and then you still have December that needs to fire off. So you need to make sure that you don't change their giving fund on their recurring gift until after it fires off for December. Also, just start thinking about archiving. Is it, how do you want to do it? What's a good thing for you guys to archive? Do you want to even archive? And that's different for every person. So now we've made available to you, as Alex mentioned early, we're going to have on December 9th at 2:00, we're going to have Atrix doing a webinar that's going to walk us through 1099s. It's going to walk us through W-2s. And as you know from last year, if you have 10 1099s and W-2s combined, then you have to do that e-file, right? So now if you have less than 10, you can choose something different, but if you have 10 or more, you have to do e-file. So this will be a great webinar. So please, please, please plan to attend. So now when you're ready to do your 1099s and your W-2s, if you get stuck, well, you have a recording right there. And of course, you always have support to back you up. So that's one thing we want to really mention. It's just a great, great resource. I'm so tickled to have it. But I also want to talk about, how do you get help? You can email us, you can call us, You can go to the website and click on contact support. So there's lots and lots of ways to get us. But if you think you might need an appointment in January, let's schedule that early, right? Because then we can meet your timetable. So let's say you say, okay, I plan to do all of my year end on the third week of January, and I feel like I might need an appointment. Then go ahead and put in a ticket, ask for that appointment, and then we can get you scheduled. And it'll be the time you want, and it'll be that way you're not waiting and then calling us and now we say, oh, well, we don't have anything until X, right? Because of the volume. So super important. We're here for you and we want to accommodate you not only in helping you, but accommodate your time if we can. So that's why schedule that early appointment. Look, I would even be so bold to say, if you think you might need it, go ahead and schedule it. You can always cancel it. But that way you get the time, and as long as you give us notice, then we're good, right? I mean, that way somebody else can take your slot. But thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you got some nuggets of information. Support is here for you. If you have any questions about any of the items we discussed, please refer to your JSG, your checklist. Those will help you greatly. And if we can do and be of any help to you in support, please never hesitate to reach out because we're here for you.